look into the programming constructs. Today is the day 11, and so far we have looked into various SQL statements, right? DML statement, DQL statements, and DDL, and so on. So it's all related to single query. So far, whatever we have seen, whatever we have learned is related to a single query. But today we are going to learn as a block of statements, right? More than one query, how we can write and how we can construct a program using SQL language. Okay, so using variables, using blocks, statements, and using if-else statement, while statement. Probably if you are if you know any other language, programming language, you know we pretty much use if-else statement, while, and it's primarily for programming, right? So SQL also we can do that. So that's what we are going to see today. And the agenda for today is we are going to look into the variables. What all are the different types of variables that we can define and use it in SQL? And also we are going to see SQL block, how to write a SQL block, and then finally control flow statements. With that said, I'm going to recap because it's already a couple of days we didn't have a session. I just wanted to recap. We are looking into building an app or a database for a chain of restaurant who wants to build an app to capture, store, process, and report their daily business transaction. It is for the restaurant business, okay? So they should be able to capture the customer visits, order details, items ordered, master items list, and so on. So ultimately, we are trying to answer these questions, okay? So most ordered item we have already seen, and then frequently visiting customer who visits more than 3 days we have seen, time of the day and week of the day analysis we have seen, and pretty much I think all the business questions that we have seen. Today we are going to see these three business questions. Okay, so how we can answer? So far we haven't used any parameter, right? So we are going to see for the first time how we can define and use a parameter, like using a variable, right? By changing the variable value or assigning a value, we can control the flow, we can control the output. And then we are going to list veg versus non-veg item based on a parameter value. And we are going to list the order details for each item separately for a given item type. For each item type, we are going to print it out separately. Okay, the same select statement is going to be executed multiple times. List the items with a different. So for each restaurant, we are going to print a different value, different SQL statement we are going to print based on the input value that we provide. With that said, I am going to go to variable. So what is a variable? Variable is a more of a temporary placeholder. Okay, so temporary placeholder to store data, and then we use that data to further process. The variables are volatile in nature. Okay, so can you guys hear me clearly? Should I stop my video or is it clear? Okay, okay, yeah. And should we so this is primarily a variable, right? So variable means it's a temporary usage. It has a temporary usage. All we have to do is assign the data type. So what data type that we want to use, we want to assign, right? So basically we need to first declare a variable. So while declaring a variable, we need to say, okay, this is the variable of this data type. Okay, and how do we say whether it's a variable or a normal column? So we need to use at. We need to prefix it with at. When we prefix it with at, the SQL knows it is a variable. And we have to define saying, okay, this is an integer type. This is a date variable. This is a string variable, and so on. And then we have to initialize with the value. So we have to initialize the variable with a value, initial value, using a select statement. So far, if you remember, select statement we use it only to print out. But select statement can also be used for assigning a variable value. And assignment. So finally we can do assignment in between. This is for the initial one, and in between any computation we can do, we can set the value based on some calculation, and then we can print it out. While printing without equal to, without assignment, we just use the variable. So we are going to see one example now. Okay, so if you see what I am doing, I am just using a integer variable. So integer variable, I am declaring a variable I as an integer, and then I am setting the initial value with 10. Okay, and then I am assigning a value. So while assigning, I can just use the same value I equal to I plus 1, right? So 10 plus 15, and then finally I am printing. So let's see how it works. Okay, I need to connect to the database. Let me change to restaurant DB. Okay, so I'm going to execute. You see, this variable, I can manipulate the variable, I can print the variable. Okay, so the variable have been declared, initialized, and I can do further computation, and finally I can print it out. Right, similarly, the variables can be used. Let me show you another example. I'll take it out below and then I will show you. Okay, so I'm going to show you a string variable now. A string variable can be used for any normal calculation. So what I'm doing, I'm declaring it as a char of 10, not char of 10. I think it has to be 20 because this will be more than 10. So char of 20 that I'm declaring, and then I'm assigning with the value. This is my country. Okay, and then ah, okay, okay. Then I will switch off my video. Okay. So is it better now? You are able to hear me clearly? Is it any better? Okay, okay. So from when onwards you are not able to hear Nandini, Nivedita? Okay, okay. Yeah, I will repeat. So basically, this is the example that I was showing. Like for a variable, first we'll have to declare. We'll have to declare saying with a statement called declare is a keyword, and this is a variable. It can be any variable, right? So I have just used I here, and this is the name of the variable, and this is the data type of the variable. So this is called declaration of the variable. Okay. So I'm declaring the variable, and then I'm assigning, right? Initially, I'm assigning the variable with the initial value. It could be 1 or it could be 0, anything value that we can decide. And then we can do some computation, right? So we can do computation, or we don't need to go, if there is no need, we don't need to do. But I'm doing a computation, and finally I'm printing. So if you give select and then only the variable name, then it is going to print the variable. Okay, so it's going to print the value of the variable. So that's why it is printing value of 25. And I'm showing another example of string variable. For string variable, we say char of 20, and I'm assigning with some random text, and then I'm printing it. And after printing, I'm only taking the first 5 characters. So substring function. So I just wanted to depict here, any string operation can be performed here. Any string operation can be performed using the variable. Okay, let me show you. Yeah, you see it is showing this is my country for the full variable name, full variable value. And I'm just performing a substring. Okay, so all these things are possible. Similarly, date variable also we can do all calculation. For example, if I just do declare and a date, it's a date field. Okay, so I'm assigning the value of date is equal to 15 August 1975. Okay, so I'm then printing select date diff year, comma, date, so date, comma, get date. So we are going to say how many years since India got independence, and we are seeing 2047. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, this is 47. This should have been 47. Yeah. Now we'll see 75. Yeah, 75 years. So the date also is possible. So now I have shown all three types of variables that we can use, and it's not only for direct assignment. We can also use it like any other column. Okay, for further calculation, everything that we do. This is extremely important. The variables are very important in the real life example. For example, while generating report, because every report will have parameter, right? So if you use whether no the MicroStrategy or you use any SSRS report, any report, the end user will pass the parameter, right? From the end user point of view, user interface will have parameter value. So those parameters will be passed as a variable, and we'll have to use the variable and handle the variable to produce the output. So this is what we have seen variables, and I hope it is clear with the variable. And there is another type of variable called table variable. So table variable can be declared using. So we are going to see how we are going to see the table variable. So I'm going to show you a table variable. So table variable can be declared like this. Okay, so can be declared like this. Declare variable name and then followed by saying table is the keyword. It's a table data type. So this is the first time we are saying SQL has a data type called table. Okay, so I am having two columns, serial number and country name. Right, this is like a typical table definition. Okay, with the columns followed by the data type, because table is a collection of data types, right? And then we are treating this like any other normal table, right? We insert into a table, right? So similarly we can insert into a table variable. This is what we are initializing through insert into statement. So I'm inserting three countries. Okay, I'm inserting three countries with the serial number, and I'm going to print here also treating like a table. Okay, so now I need to execute all three because this is a temporary variable, right? So I need to, yeah. So if you see, I need to declare, I need to initialize, and then I need to print it. So any question on the table variable from anyone? Any question from anyone? Okay. So now you guys understand the table variable, right? Okay, it's all right. So I'm going to go to the next topic. So now, so far, now we have written a single SQL statement. How can we write multiple SQL statement, and then how can we group them? How can we group the statements? How can we say that these set of statements are to be executed together? So that can be used using a begin and end. So if you put a statements within between and end, the SQL knows that okay, they all are part of one control flow. They are one block of SQL statements. Okay, so you would see how I can do. So you see, I can write like this: begin and end. Inside begin and end, I can write the statement. Okay, so if you execute, so you will see it is one chunk of statement that will be part of, right? So let me execute till here. You see SQL is showing an error because when you have begin, when you start with begin, you have to end with begin. Okay, so without, this is like open parenthesis and close parenthesis, right? So without both you cannot execute, right? With only with the open or end parenthesis we cannot execute. We have to execute with both. This is something similar to that. Okay, so now why this is useful? This is useful especially when we have a control flow. When we have a control flow using if-else statement. So I know many of you are familiar with if-else statement. So based on a condition, we can decide whether to execute this block of statement or this block of statement, right? Based on a condition. So that is what is if-else condition, right? If based on a condition, if it is satisfied, it will execute this. Else then you execute this block of statement. So that is what is if-else statement. Let's see with this an example. Okay, so what I'm doing before seeing if-else, we'll see only if statement. So what I'm doing here, I'm declaring a variable. Okay, and the variable is varchar10, and I'm assigning the value of 1. Okay, and then I'm having a if statement. If statement, I'm saying if it is 1, then print the statement. Okay, so let me execute. So this is if statement, only testing if statement. Okay, so it is printing it properly. So now if I want to print, if it is 1, then I want to do both. Let's say I want to print 1 and then I want to print um, the Italian, right? So in italics also we have a 1, right? So Roman letter, I'm just printing 1. Both I want to print. Now if I execute, let's see what it will execute. It will execute both, but the thing is, even if you give wrong condition, the second Roman will execute. We'll see. Even if you give 2, only the Roman letter will execute, because the if condition is only applicable for this first select. Okay, not for this. Okay, because we have not given between begin and end. If you want to treat both the statement to execute only if the condition satisfy, then we have to give begin and end. You see, now I am executing inside begin and end. So if I give Roman letter now, okay, so now this will execute both the statement, or this will not execute both the statement. If I give 2, both the statement will not be executed, because you see both the statement will not be executed. That is the usage of begin and end. Begin and end executes a block of statement. Without begin and end, if you give, it will only execute single statement based on the condition. Is it clear? So you guys are able to understand, right? The functionality of begin and end. If you want both the statement to execute it only if the condition satisfy, then you have to put it inside begin and end. Okay. Otherwise, if you don't go begin and end, SQL only treat this as a conditional statement. Okay. For this condition, if it will execute or not based on if statement. Okay. So let me see if there is any question from anyone based on. So you guys now understood the if statement. Else we haven't gone there now. So you guys understood the if statement and then understand the begin and end. When we should go for why we should go for begin and end. Begin and end are to be mentioned so that SQL knows it's a block of statement. Based on a condition, we have to execute a block of statement, not a single statement. Okay, so with that, let me move on to this block. So here now we are going to see if else statement. So we have seen only if statement, right? So now we are going to see if else statement. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to execute 2 blocks. Okay, not blocks, single statement. Okay, so based on if else condition. So I'm defining a wedge flag as a bit data type 0 or 1, and I'm going to assign a value 1, and I'm going to I've written a if else statement. If the variable is 0, then it will enter this block, not block this statement, it will print, else it will print this statement. Okay, so let's see. So now this will execute. This block is for wedge, because the wedge flag is set to y 1. Now if I execute the same with 0, you will see that you will execute for the other one, non-wedge. Yeah, so this way you can write if and else. So since it's only one statement, you don't need to mention begin and end. But if you want to execute a block of statement, then you have to go for begin and end. Yeah, you see here I'm executing. Now I'm going to show you it's not a single statement. Based on a condition, I'm going to execute a block of statement, 2 statements that I want to execute, right? So that's why I'm writing a begin and end. So this is very important. Sometimes people might miss out the begin and end. So now I'm going to execute. You see, always and also when you write a begin and end block, the formatting is important. You see how well I've written. So this is for the first begin. This is for the second else begin. So that when you look into the code, you can easily understand. And between the block, you always put one more indentation, right? So that it is very easy for reading, right? It's better than writing like this, right? So for example, if I don't put it this way, how the code would look like? The code would look like this. It's difficult to read, right? It's not a readable code. right? So that's why we have to always use, I'm just highlighting and then pressing a tab. So if you wonder how I'm moving it, I'm pressing a tab. Okay, so I'm pressing a tab and then I'm only selecting I'm selecting this piece of code, pressing one more tab and then selecting this piece of code, one more tab, and then selecting this piece of code and press tab. You see, now it is much better readable. Okay, so you always know which begin this end belongs to. Okay, so now I'm going to execute this piece of code. So I'm going to execute this code just to see for whether is it printing non-veg items. You see, this is printing non-veg and this is also printing the non-veg item. So there is only one item I've been ordered. So it's showing both the items. Okay, so I've used a subquery, what we learnt in the last class. So last class we learnt about the subquery, right? So this will give all the non-veg items, and then it will this outer query will check those items in the order item. Then it will print. Okay, so we are using multiple statements here. Okay, slowly we are using the techniques that we have learnt in here actually. So now if I simply change the value to 1, so we are going to see the veg items are going to be printed. Why I am showing this is, when this value becomes like a parameter, you see all these veg items are being displayed here. So now I am assigning the value. Instead of assigning the value, tomorrow we are going to see how this variable can be passed as a parameter using a stored procedure. Tomorrow session we are going to learn about stored procedure. At that time we will see, we are not going to hard code the value. We are going to make it as a parameter, and then while executing procedure we are going to pass the value. Based on the value it is going to print. Okay, so far any question from anyone? I'm going to move on to the next topic, exists and not exists. So we can give condition. So far now what we have done, so we have done based on a condition. If statement, we have written a value, right? We are checking whether the variable value 0 or 1, then accordingly we are controlling the flow. Now we are going to see exist, not exist. Okay, so now we are going to see, so this is, okay, so before that, let's understand one more thing. Okay, so the if else statement, any number of else if we can write. For example, if you see here, I am writing if. So instead of bit, I'm using char of 1. Okay, because I want to pass more than 2 value. If I pass B, then both should be printed, veg and non-veg. N means non-veg, V means veg. So since I have more than 2 condition, first block I have written if, which means it will go to this block. Else if. So else if, you are learning else if for the first time. Else if is, okay, this is the second condition. It's not else, it is a else if. So else if it is V, then it will show this block, which block. Finally, it will have else if one more time I am printing. So like this, any number of else if you can write. You can keep writing else if. If first condition, else if another condition, else if another condition. So whichever condition is satisfied for the first time, it will get into that block and it will execute. If I give the flag as B, then it will execute both. This is for both. So you see, without any condition, it will execute for everything, right? So I'm not giving else block, right? If I don't give any other value other than these 3 value, it will not execute any piece of code. Okay. So now we have seen that. So that is the learning. Now we are going to learn exists and not exists. Based on a table value, whether exists or not, we are going to decide the condition, not based on a variable. So the condition is based on a table value. Okay, if exists, if not exists. So the syntax is, if exists, if any record exists for a condition. So this is how you give a condition, normal select statement from a table using a condition. So if any record exists, it will execute if block. If there is no record exists, it will execute else block. It's very simple. So far we have used a variable to check the if condition. Now we are checking If record exists for a condition, then it is true. It will execute true statement. If block, else it will execute else block. Let's see. So now I am checking if exists. If Tiffin item beverage item executes, then it is a true. Then it will execute says beverage exists. Else if I am checking if Tiffin item exists, it says Tiffin exists. I can say else, right? Begin and end. Then I can say what I can say. Tiffin and beverage not exists. Okay, so I can say not exists. So this is how I can write if statement. Let's see what it where it goes. Because we have beverage, it says beverage exists. Because it is, if I execute this code, you know that beverage item executes in the menu. Menu code has beverage, right? So right now this is more of validating whether record exists for a condition, and then accordingly you decide the control flow. So now let's say I just put intentionally beverages. Okay. So now let's see which block it goes. It goes to Tiffin exists because there is no such item beverages. So it comes here, it checks whether Tiffin exists. So it goes for Tiffin, right? So because this table has Tiffin items, right? Many Tiffin items it exists. So now let me put Tiffins also. Okay, so let's see whether it goes to both Tiffin and beverage not exist. Yeah, not exist. So this is how you can control the flow, right? The conditions based on existence of data based on a condition. Okay, so I hope this is also clear. In case if you guys need any question, please ask me. Okay, so if you guys have any question, please ask me. So now we have seen if exists based on a variable condition, and we have also seen if exists based on a record existence of a record for a condition, given condition. Okay. So now we are going to the interesting segment. We are going to see while loop. We want to execute a block of statements continuously. Okay, to execute a block of statements in a continuous loop, we go for while. Until a condition is met, it will keep on executing the same loop again and again. So the syntax is while a variable value is less than 10, it keeps executing the block of code, right? So this is how it will execute. So let's see. So we are going to execute okay, while statement. Okay, so what I'm doing, so while statement I'm executing. So while statement, let me take this code, comment this code. Okay, so let me remove this code. So what I'm doing here, I am declaring a variable which is of type integer, and then setting the value to 0. First value I'm setting to 0, and then I am going to execute this loop, this block I'm going to execute continuously while this condition meets. Okay, so the counter value is less than or equal to 10. So its value 0, right? So first time it will execute less than or equal to 10. And then I'm incrementing the counter. I'm incrementing the counter, and then I'm printing the counter. Okay, so I'm printing the value, and then it will go to the block again. So now the value is 1. So it will compare 1 is less than or equal to 10. So until the value condition is satisfied, it will keep on going and executing the loop. Okay, and finally this will say when the condition meets, when the value goes to 11, it comes out, and then it is going to end the loop. Let's see. So you see it is printing statement 1 to 10, and in fact it is printing the value 11 also, because when the value is 10, it will make it to 11 and it will print 11. Okay, so then the loop gets completed, right? So now we are able to execute the command multiple times. Okay, so now we are going to see break and continue. So can I intentionally break? So to control the flow of the loop, we can break the loop and exit completely. So how I can exit completely? So for example, if the value is 8, can I break? So if the counter value is 8, I don't want to go till 11. Okay, I want to break when the value becomes 8. Okay, so when the value becomes 8, I want to break it. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to execute. So you see value, it has gone till 8. Once the value becomes 8, it exits completely. So the break is to, based on a condition, if you want to completely exit from the loop, then you can use the break. Break will break the loop. Okay, so break will break the loop and completely come out once a condition gets satisfied. Okay, so now, yeah, when the value becomes 8, it will break. Okay, so now this condition is becomes not used, right? So because anyway the break is going to break. So what I can do, 1 equal to 1 I can give. 1 equal to 1 I can give. Because infinite loop, I can execute infinite loop because this break statement anyway will break it. Let's see. 1 equal to 1 always is called infinite loop. Okay, so when I write infinite loop, right, even then when the value becomes 8, it breaks. Okay, so we are safe. Okay, so I'm just changing it back to the original condition, and we are going to see what is continue. Continue means it is going to pass the current loop and go to the beginning of next loop. It is going to skip the current loop. Only one loop it is going to skip. So let's see. Continue. Okay. So let's see. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I'm going to, we are in, okay, so we are in that loop. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to print. Let's see what value it is printing. Continue is going to skip the 8 value. We are not going to say 8 value. Let's see. Conversion failed. Okay, so I think this is integer. Okay, so let me convert into care of 1, not 1 2. Okay, so I'm converting into a character because it has to do addition, right? So it's not able to do addition. So I'm converting this into a character of 2 from integer. So now we are going to see we are in loop 1, we are in loop 2, we are in loop 3. So we are going to see loop 7. Then you see loop 8 is not there because when the value becomes 8, it says continue. Continue means it will skip all the statement. Let's say even if you have 10 statements after the continue, right, within the loop, it is going to skip all the statement and it is going to simply pass the control to end of that loop. Then it will go back to the next loop. Okay, so the difference between break and continue, break is going to completely stop. Okay, break is going to completely stop, whereas continue is going to skip that particular loop. Okay, see, break is going to completely stop. Okay, so I hope you guys are clear. So now the case study. So we have seen veg and non-veg based on item parameter value. This we have seen. Now I'm going to write a query. List down the order details for each item separately for a given item type. For item type, I'm going to uh, pass as a parameter. I think that also we have seen, right? Item type. So you see the item types. Okay, now we haven't seen. Let's see. I'm going to pass item type and then accordingly I'm going to print. So declare item type as varchar of 20. Okay, and then I'm going to select what is item type we have. We have item type equal to beverage. Okay, so now I'm going to print select star from from item where item type equal to item type equal to item type equal to item type. Okay, so now I'm going to show you. So we can print based on the value that we pass, right? Based on the value that we pass, we can print list down the order details. Okay, not this. I think we need to print the order details. So then we need to go for I and join order item OI, and then I need to give a join condition. So remember, the join condition is different from uh, where condition, equal to OI dot item type, item ID. Okay, so now we are going to see the values for beverages. Okay, so now I'm going to print the item. So we are going to see there are two orders, right? Order number 3 and order number 8. Okay, so there are 4 orders. You see, order ID is different. So there are 4 IDs where they have ordered coffee and tea. They have ordered order and tea. So we are going to see all the details. Yeah, so now you can write, you can use a variable to, we can use a variable to print the order details. So this one we have done separately for the given item type. Now if I, let's say, if I say main course, right? I think main course is that. Let's see. Okay, main we don't have. I think we have meal. Let's see. Let me try with meal. Yeah, we have meal. Okay, so like that, based on a variable, now we can do whatever join that we do, and then we can pass those variables. It's not just one variable. If you want, you can pass multiple variable. For example, I can specify, let's say, item rate is greater than 100, and item rate is greater than 100. Okay, so let me item rate also. So I'm going to declare another variable. So how to declare another variable? I think we haven't seen two variables, right? Integer. And I'm going to set the rate to 100. So now we are going to see. So I've declared two variables, and I've assigned both the variables. I'm going to use both the variables here. Item rate. So item rate, since it is there in both the table, it is giving warning message because we have to use alias, right? So let me, both are fine, right? So I can use Y. Let's see whether it is further. Previously it was printing 3 records. Now it has to print only 2 records. You see, 2 records. So now we have seen how we can use multiple variables in a single statement. Okay. And third is list the items with different columns for each of the restaurant city. So there are 3 restaurants, right? So each restaurant, it should print a different select statement. Okay, select star from from each item, right? List the items, order item. It's Y join order header OH, and then on OI dot order ID equal to OH dot order ID. And we need to join and again, because the restaurant table is the one which is having the restaurant details. Or I'm saying join on R dot restaurant ID equal to OH dot restaurant ID. Okay, so and so now we can use where. Okay, so now I'm going to write a different statement. Declare restaurant city. Okay, and then I'm going to say where char of 10. Okay, so now where char of 10, I'm going to select the value. Select city equal to SHNA. So now I'm going to say if If equal to Chennai, then I'm going to execute this select statement. Okay, so I'm going to execute this select statement. So where the okay, where this is not needed. Okay, but restaurant ID is needed, right? Yeah, and where r dot restaurant city equal to the variable restaurant city. So now I'm going to execute else begin end. Now I'm going to write a separate statement. So now what I'm going to do, the question is list the items with the different columns for each. So if based on the parameter, I want to print different columns. Okay, so let's first execute one column. We'll see. So I'm executing for Chennai. Okay, Chennai means I think it is giving all these restaurant details, right? So all this column it is printing. And if it is non-Chennai, let me select only one, right? So I'm only saying R dot star. Okay, so based on that, I'm only printing. So if it is Chennai means I'm printing only order header. Now what I want to say is we can select and print a different select statement based on the input parameter, right? Based on the condition, especially in the report, right? They will say for Chennai report it has to have these set of column. For Bengaluru, it has to have these set of columns in the report. So now you will be able to write. You see, if it is Chennai means you can show a different. If it is a different city, let's say, because there is a else condition, right? So I can execute. Now let's see for if it is a non-Chennai, then it will print. Okay, I think let me give Bengaluru. So now let's see. Yeah, for Bengaluru it is showing the restaurant details, whereas for Chennai it is giving order details. Like that, we can control which SQL to execute based on the report parameter value. Okay, so with that we have come to end of the presentation. So before I move on to the quiz, is there any question from anyone? So today I just want to summarize. Today we have seen variables. What are variables? What all are the different types? We have character, we have date variable, we have string variable, date variable. All three we have seen. And then we have seen table variable, right? Table variable can be used like a normal table. Okay, this is for temporary usage for any computation. If you want to do any calculation, you can use the table variable. And then finally the calculated value either you can print it out or you can insert it into a permanent table, right? That is the main usage of table variable. And then we have seen block statement. What is a block statement? Block statement, you use begin and end. It is more of a begin and then it has to end with end. Okay, whatever statement that you write inside, SQL assumes it is a block of statements. Okay, and then we have seen if else statement. So if statement, else statement can be used to control which block of SQL statement to get executed based on a condition. So the condition we have seen, based on a variable you can control the flow, or you can use to find existence of a record based on a condition, right? That also can decide whether you want to execute a if statement or else statement. And then we have seen it's not like one if and else. We can use if, else if, else if, else if, and then we can execute end. Like that, any number of else if you can use based on the multiple condition you can handle. Then accordingly you can execute which SQL statement that you want to execute. Then we have seen if while statement. It's a loop statement. You can execute multiple times. And there are two this thing. One is a break, means it is based on a condition. If it meets, it will completely exit from the loop. Continue means it will only skip that particular loop. Okay, so this is what we have seen right now. Today, if there are no more questions, we will go to the quiz. So I kind of request you guys to get ready with answering. So what is the first answer? What is the why is it 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D? How to loop a set of statements in SQL? Is it do until? Is it loop? Is it while? Is it do while? Okay, so 1B is what people have answered. Couple of people. That's good. So let's see the answer. Yes, it is while statement. And now, second question. Which syntax is true? Which syntax is true? You need to be careful actually. You need to be careful. So the point is, so let's see whether what people have given 2D. Okay, 2D is what? Because 2D is the right answer because A is not right because we cannot declare and assign. We cannot combine and do it as a single statement. Right? Some programming language allow, but SQL does not allow. And here we have used the variable first without declaring. SQL throw error message. We cannot use a variable without declaring. So declaration should come first. And for this one, we have declared it as an integer, but we are assigning a string variable. It will fail. So what will work? This is what will work. Declaration as an integer and then assigning an integer value. So what is the answer for the third one? Statement to end the loop. To end the loop. Okay, is it continue? End, break, stop. Let's see how many of you answer it correctly. Statement to end the loop. Okay, so for 3 people have answered 3C. Okay, that's the right answer. That's the right answer. Okay, so good to see that now you guys got the concept clearly. And with that, now we have we have made some progress on the programming construct, not fully. Some programming construct we have finished, and we have made good progress. Tomorrow we are going to see SQL store procedure and triggers. So tomorrow we are going to learn store procedure and triggers because both needs these variables, both are programming construct programming objects. Okay, so tomorrow we are going to see exciting things.